So I wanted to come on quickly and preface this video because for the first time doing graveyards and actually filming, I actually heard what I thought to be voices. You can hear them for yourself by watching the video. At the time, I was the only person in the cemetery. The only other person was the groundskeeper, and he was at least 50 yards away from me at all times. Now, if you're an amateur paranormal investigator such as myself, you always want to approach these things with a fair amount of skepticism, reason, and logic, because otherwise you're going to attribute everything to being a ghostly encounter. So upon research of my film and watching it time and time again, I had to rule out any possibility of wind or weather phenomenon. It really wasn't windy in the cemetery when I went, so there was a little bit of wind, but not enough to produce a sound coming through a hallway or anything like that. There was very little wind. You can notice that by looking at the trees in most of the footage. The trees aren't whipping in the wind or anything like that. There's actually a little windmill when the voices are heard down by the columbarium niche, which is where they keep all the cremains and have the memorial wall in the beginning of the video. There's actually a little windmill down at the bottom, and as the voices are heard, that windmill is not moving. So I paid attention to everything, and I happen to believe that it may be the sound of someone beyond the grave. The other time I noticed in my editing that there was something different in the air was when I was leaving the sectioned off portion of the graveyard. There were two subsections of the graveyard, and I went in and kind of explored this subsection of the graveyard. And as I'm leaving out of the graveyard, this one's a little harder to hear, so turn your volume up. I hear the sound of a man's voice. They seem to be singing or something. So it's very brief. If you're not paying attention, you'll probably miss it. So I just wanted to tell you about those experiences that I had. It was pretty cool. And all in all, the cemetery was probably my favorite so far, and I've been to a bunch. Just because of the variety of tombstones and mausoleums, and it was just really cool to see. So I do recommend watching, and especially in those parts, maybe watching and rewatching if you want to hear what I heard, and I'm interested to know what you think. So let me know in the comments section down below. Let me know if you heard what I heard and what you think could perhaps be the cause of it, because I'm open to anything. Hello all, this is Halloween. Thank you for joining me today. We'll be going on another adventure. Today, we will be visiting the Woodlawn Cemetery, the second oldest cemetery in Tampa. Enjoy! So, still not sure if I'm in the right place. Thought I was at the Woodlawn Cemetery in Tampa. At least that's what it said on Google Maps. And this says Beth Israel Cemetery, but perhaps they're connected. So we're gonna go in and see what we can see. I drove all the way from St. Pete, South St. Pete, all the way over here, you know, just to see some certain gravestones that I'm looking for and, you know, look into what I've researched. So we'll see what we can see. So we made it. It actually is the Woodlawn Cemetery. There are just different sections, and one section was the Beth Israel section. It's like a Jewish section of the cemetery. Didn't realize it was sectioned off like that. But there are a lot of very cool headstones. They have a lot of, here is where they started doing a lot more of the photographs of the departed on the headstones. This is a little bit later. So this area was deeded in 1880. After the Woodlawn Cemetery, which we went to last week, was actually full, is when they kind of sectioned off this 40 acres of land specifically for burials. It was in 1886 when it was named the Woodlawn Cemetery. So here are some other tombs that are tiled on the top, which I thought was kind of wild looking when I saw one at Woodlawn Cemetery, but evidently, you know, they were doing that some back then. These are actually, the headstones are a little newer, but I'm guessing that the tile is probably a little bit older. Looks like maybe the headstones perhaps might have been replaced at some point. They do that a lot. If they're loved enough by the family and the tombstone's looking rickety, they'll replace it with a new one. But a lot of the images of the departed on the tombstones in this particular cemetery. Look at this one. Wild. That's wild. This is, I believe, where ashes are stored. If you want the ashes to have their own place. This is pretty popular in most cemeteries nowadays, to have the ashes stored in a wall with a memorial. You can see just from where I'm standing how vast it is. 40 acres of land. I'm not even sure I'm gonna find who I'm looking for today, because it's so many. So here we have some very unique headstones and above ground tombs. And there they have the picture of the departed. Looks like Angelo Massaro, born 1846, died in 1938. And the middle one just has the cross at the top. And over here, Angela Ferlita, born in 1853, died in 1933. So, kind of walking along the bottoms of the graves. Here looks like we have an unmarked capsule style tomb, unless this headstone was put here for that capsule, but it's kind of offset. It's right in the middle, and the tombstone is way over here, so I'm not really sure what happened there. Now, and that one was just a baby, but this was a very popular style back then, evidently, because there are a lot of these here. There was only one in Woodlawn, and it's that same design. It kind of looks like our Christmas wreath. I am at the plot of the Hamptons. Hiram and Emma Hampton. Hiram was a doctor in Tampa, and Emma was his wife, and they had 8 kids between them, 3 of which died during infancy. Their plots here are above ground tombs made of Italian marble, and they are said to be facing their 5 children here on the plot. So these are all of their children buried right here in the same plot as them, but the plot is immaculate. It's got a beautiful shade tree hanging over, and the depictions of Emma and Hiram are remarkable. Something very cool to see if you visit the Woodlawn Cemetery. She, in her hands, has a fan, and he has a book. And they are very cool. A doctor, obviously had some money. Well, they do have the images as well. Unfortunately, Miss Emma's image is no longer there, but they do say online that the actual portrait itself is somewhere still intact, but it's just not on her mausoleum anymore. I love what his says. It says, if you can't read it, I'll read it for you. I love my companions and appreciate my friends on earth, and crave that we may have a reunion after death. Amen to that, brother. He must have been a reader, because under his chair you can see that there are several books as well. But very cool depictions of each of them, doing them both very much justice. And all the children, just one in an above ground tomb. The rest of them are all buried in this plot. So that's very cool and unique. One of my favorites so far, I have to say. Here are the backs of their tombs, or I guess what would be the front, even though they're facing with their back to the front of the tomb, they're said to be facing their children that are buried in front of them. But Dr. Hiram, born in 1852, died in 1920. And here's Emma, his wife of Dr. Hiram J. Hampton, born May 17th, 1854, died July 3rd in 1908. Just something interesting about back then. For some reason, the women weren't living as long. Life expectancy of the women was a lot shorter than the men. That has changed over time, but still just kind of something to know. Just down a couple plots from the Hamptons, we have the Stafford Plot, which I thought was really cool. There's a little entryway to their plot. It says their name right on the as you step in, and these are just cool in my opinion. It says Nellie Osborne Spafford, born in 1865, died in 1921. And O.J. Spafford, born in 1832, died in 1909. Now, you can see kind of the size of these, and I think they look bigger in the photographs. But people were a lot smaller back then. They didn't have all the Burger Kings and McDonald's on every corner, so people were very tiny. Even the men were a lot shorter because we didn't have all the hormones in the food that we have today. Needs to go back to being that way. Maybe there wouldn't be so much obesity. If you want to die in style, here's the way to go right here. An entire building. John Savarese and James Risley. This looks like something you'd see right out of a movie. Very cool. This is a cool cemetery definitely to come and visit, because there are so many different and unique monuments if you like that sort of thing. And the trees are always really cool in cemeteries. Like, they have a lot of really cool plants and trees if you go to some of these older cemeteries. They've been here for 100 years, you know, more than 100 years at this point. And the trees have just grown into really large, very nice and unique looking trees. So here is another building pretty much for the departed. And it looks like you can look inside. There's a lot of these around here. Oh, look at that. They've even got stained glass in the back. You can see where the bodies have been placed in a mausoleum, in their own mausoleum. There's 3 on either side. And then they have the stained glass window in the back. That is really cool. And it's some kind of marble, it looks like. So, kind of cool. I've definitely been to cemeteries where I have not seen this. Here I just found a whole row of these, which I was admiring a couple plots ago. The Webb family plot. But they have this scroll-like headstone, which looks kind of cool in my opinion. Goes all the way down. There are 9 Webb burials here with that headstone, which are very cool. Very old, too. This one's a little new, 1951, I mean, but that's still old. I mean, we're going back to, you know, born in 1877, so it's an older family of the cemetery. And over here, there's even more. These are Parkers, so this is a different family plot, but they're not sectioned off by family as much here. I mean, some of them are, but some of them aren't, as they were in Woodlawn. In Woodlawn, they had the fences, and there's a lot of newer burials here. You can see the newer headstones that are, you know, quite obviously very new. And this couple here, their picture. So, looks like just the husband has passed. I'm waiting for his beloved wife. This is something else very common you will see here at this particular cemetery are the baby plots. These are not normal size. I'll put my foot just right here so you can see kind of like what size. Maybe you can tell. It's a small, very small plot for a baby. Looks like they're trying to dig somebody up again. Very deep hole right here, so watch where you step if you come. Mother Angelina Costa, born in 1898, died in 1924. So I reached a very cool portion of the cemetery where there are a lot of really unique and ornate designs. They have the tiled designs, some baby graves, but all, you know, kind of weathered, been discolored by the weather. This one died in 1922. There's another one over here that looks very similar. Just very cool looking. I'm actually looking for Dr. Leslie Whedon, but I cannot find his tombstone, and I may not be able to find it because there's 40 acres of burials here and 24,000 burials. So I may not be able to find it today, unfortunately. But this area is obviously a very much older area of the graveyard. Probably some of the first burials in this particular graveyard. As you can see, everything looks very, very weathered, cracked, you know. But just really, really cool cemetery to come visit if you have time. I would suggest wearing some kind of bug spray because it's like 3 p.m. and the mosquitoes are out and getting vicious. Hopefully there's no yellow fever in here. Also, carry a bottle of water. I'm starting to get thirsty, and you know, I left my bottle of water in the car. I have one, but I left it in the car, which, you know, is a good place for it. But this is just a really cool cemetery. I just love the trees. Almost every tomb you look at, even the newer ones, are pretty cool. You know, they splurged on the artwork. This one's really cool. The Alonzo Plot. These are some newer arrivals. Mary Alonzo died in 1997, so hasn't been here that long. Looks like there was some kind of an awning at one point. That does not exist anymore. Gotta make things sturdy when you're going to be buried for hundreds of years. So back to the older part over here. Just really cool. You could see just how many burials there are. It would take you 2 days to go through this entire cemetery. And I have no idea where Dr. Whedon is. But he was one that I really wanted to see. And then getting here, I'm like going, this is going to be like finding a needle in a haystack. I'd have to find where his exact plot is online. And my phone is about to die. So I'm going to walk around a bit more, see if I can find him, and show you anything cool along the way. There's a huge section of this graveyard, and then there's 2 subsections of the graveyard. So I'm over here, and you can see it has its own gate. So I'm going to go in here and see if I can find Dr. Leslie Washington Whedon. But you can see how many burials are just in this part alone. So I've been here for over an hour, pretty much walked the whole perimeter and all around the graveyard looking for Dr. Whedon, but I can't find him. This may have to be a two-parter, or I may have to just say, screw it. You know, we did see some really cool things in this cemetery, really cool headstones. Even like, it looks like they were trying to have a contest on who could be the most innovative when it came to headstones and burial plots, because they really are very artistic and creative. So it's a cool cemetery, definitely, that you want to come visit if you're into visiting cemeteries. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one. But I don't know, I just enjoy the artwork, and it's actually very quiet and peaceful. If you want to just take a walk, you know, and to look at the artwork, it's a very quiet, serene, no one's gonna mess with you. No one's among the living. You know, I haven't even got a shoulder tap from a ghost or anything, so it's extremely peaceful. I just enjoy it. So I'm headed towards the front now, and maybe I'll do a two-part, I don't know, but I'll have to like see exactly where he's laid to rest if I want to come find him here, because it's darn near impossible. So but I did see, you know, the Hampton family plot, which is one that I was looking forward to seeing. It was really cool. And a lot of these above ground mausoleum style burial, I guess you could say, were also very cool. So I definitely enjoyed it. I already walked 4 miles earlier today. I probably walked another 2 since I've been here. So make sure you're gonna come here, you wear comfortable shoes, bring your water with you. You're gonna get thirsty, and you're gonna sweat, and you're going to be uncomfortable if you're wearing stilettos. So just FYI, it's fair warning. It's a huge cemetery that you can't possibly see all of in just a couple of hours, but I tried. And next time we'll go somewhere else. I'm thinking Myrtle Hill Cemetery, or maybe Gulfport. So for our next one, but I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely got a lot of cool pictures and enjoyed it myself. So I'll see you next time. So if you are in the area and you are visiting the Woodlawn Cemetery, I would recommend the Front Porch Tavern. It is on Florida, and it's about 5 minutes from the cemetery. If you want a good bite to eat in a very authentic location with great atmosphere, we even have a front porch you can eat on, and a back porch. And the upstairs is haunted, just so you know. So I'm inside the front porch. Very cute. It is an old house.
Listen, she's gonna be somebody's favorite.
And right up them stairs is where the ghost lives. So I'm gonna try and see if I can ask the bartender if she's had any experiences. But I've been coming here for years and always have heard people talking about the experiences that they've had working here. Very cute little place to come if you love atmosphere and you love old bed and breakfast and things like that. You will love the front porch.
I mean, I've never actually experienced anything. Just always creeped out. You always feel like someone's watching you.
When you're upstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't had any experience with that? If I'll believe it when I see it, but I haven't seen it yet. So.
Yeah. So, when I used to come here years ago, somebody told me that it gets a little active late at night.
We'll have to do a sleepover one night.
Yeah.
Right? Sleepover, never.
See, one night I heard her, like, she went upstairs and all of a sudden I just hear her scream and she was like, Steven! Now for me, I'm thinking like that's the name of the ghost, but I go up there, she's like, no, it's okay.
Thank you for joining me today. So happy you guys chose to watch me. It was a great trip to the Woodlawn Cemetery. It was a lot of walking. So if you're going to Woodlawn Cemetery, plan to wear comfortable shoes, bring a bottle of water, because it'll be a long journey if you're going around the entire perimeter of the cemetery. Other than that, there were a couple places that I wanted to show you I didn't know had been closed down, so we only made it to the front porch, but it's still a great place to go and have a bite to eat. If you're looking for things to do in that general area, there are some antique shops on Florida Avenue that you would really enjoy. There's also a couple other places I'd recommend, which is one is the Independent. It's a craft beer tavern and it's right there on Florida, just minutes away from the graveyard. And there's also Cappy's Pizza, which is a landmark staple here in Tampa. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.